I have chosen, of the 1,500 Type 34s in the database, a 62, which is the first year for production, that is the very best preserved 62 that I have found. It's owned in Germany, in Altenburg, Germany, by Johannes Krasenbrink. It's a pearl white 1962 coupe, and the VIN number is 35,000, with never been restored, original paint, original upholstery, original engine, never been welded, and it was built in early May of 1962. It currently has 54,000 kilometers, which is about 33,000 miles from original. So it has a unique history in the fact that it had one owner when it was new, and that was Hermann Steinbach. He bought it for his wife, and he was a factory owner. She traded it in not too long after that to a Peugeot shop, and in 1996, Johannes saw this car featured in VW Scene magazine, and it took him 3 years to convince the owner to sell it, but in 1999 he was able to buy this car. It is completely unrestored original, so it's the very best that there is. You can see here in this picture that the pearl white paint is a very common color for Type 34s in the early years. Most of the promotional advertising was done with pearl white paint. In this picture you can see the early nose emblem here, which was unique for 62, as well as the cat's eye mirror, which has got an angle to the side of it, which is unique for 62. Beautiful, beautiful unrestored condition here. This car is driven regularly, it shows, and is just absolutely perfect in almost every way. The side view, you can see the 62 only side badges that are located underneath here, as well as the painted hubcaps and the 4 slotted rims with the aluminum beauty ring that goes around it. This is a close-up of the Karmann and the Ghia scripts that are on the right side panel. This was a 62 only part item, and they were only installed on one side. This is a close-up of the cat's eye mirror. It was a rainy day back in 2011 when I took this, but the cat's eye mirror was only used on the left side for 1962 cars. Now the rear of the car, you can see, has the Karmann Ghia script located on the rear vertical panel, which is unique because in late 62, early 63, they began installing the Karmann Ghia script on the rear deck lid, where it stayed throughout its production life. A close-up of that, you can see the 1500 emblem as well. That is a different style for 62. It doesn't have any tabs at the outer edges of the 1500. Here's a close-up. You can see it just a little bit better. The early cars, of course, had the pointed bumper guards that are sharper and more pointed at the top of it. And here's a beautiful picture of it in the snow in Germany. Just a gorgeous car. Close-up of it, you can see the European bulb-style headlights with the glass headlight lens. There were 2 types of headlights, sealed beam and European-style bulb, and this is the European style. Another close-up of it. Matches the fog lights really nicely. Here's a close-up of the painted VW logo emblem on the early hubcaps, with those slotted rims and beauty rings. And this is a close-up of the front nose emblem that's unique for the 62 models. It's a cast piece with 2 centrally located pins top and bottom, and it has a rubber packing piece underneath it to prevent it from scratching the paint. Inside Johannes' car, you can see the push-button dash here, which is one of the early signs of a car, as well as the dished window winder handles. This car has a 62, always had the ivory gear shift knob, and if you look closely you can see that this is a two-piece fresh air unit here that has different style knobs than the 63 and later does. The red cloth upholstery with the silver beige vinyl is a beautiful combination on the pearl white paint. And you can see that Johannes still does not have a radio installed. He's got the radio block-off plate installed in the dash, like it was when it was new. The red cocoa mat set came with the car originally, which is amazing considering it's 60 years old. And the set is in beautiful condition. The earliest 62s, up until about the time that Johannes' car was built, came with a speedometer that had interior lines inside the center instead of just along the outside. About when Johannes' car was produced, these lines were only on the outside of the speedometer, not on the inside. This is a close-up of the two-piece fresh air trim and those unique knobs that were cast into the levers. They're not removable. On the side of the seats, you can see the seats are painted white, pearl white, and then up here you can see the seat release knob is located in the upper portion of the seat instead of down at the base of the seat frame like it is in the later years. This is a close-up of that knob. It's the same knob used on the dash to lift up the side of that seat backrest. Down at the bottom, the earliest cars had rounded front seat slider knobs. And the back seat area, you can see here on the early 62s, did not have a vent for the rear seat to ventilate the rear seat area. Door panels are beautiful, tight, great map pockets, just exactly the way it was when it was brand new. The earliest cars in 62 and 63 had the quarter window pop-out latches with two holes in it here to allow the adjustment tool to tighten that screw into the latch itself. You can also see that there are no knurled edges. It's a smooth-edged knob for the tightening of that quarter window. On the base of the C-pillar, which is right here, you can see that instead of having black plastic caps covering this section, on the inside they have it covered in vinyl, the same kind of vinyl that was used for the rear tray here. That was a metal piece that was built into the tray for the early years. And underneath the back seat is just phenomenal. I mean, look at the insulation, the tubing, the rear seat black paint, the battery cover. Everything is just fantastically preserved on this car. Front compartment is super clean, as you might expect with a 30,000 mile car, and the unique thing about the interior front compartment area on 62s is that the spare wheel cover, this piece here, was painted the body color of the car. So in this case that would have been pearl white. The same goes for the engine trapdoor lid, was also painted the body color of the car. Inside, the nose section is just as sweet and perfect as it can be, with the dual horns mounted inside like it was on all the early cars through early 65. And then over here you can see the piece of carpet square to prevent any rattling of any of the components inside there with the spare tire. In the earliest years in 62, the brake fluid reservoir had a rubber stopper instead of a screw-on type cap for that reservoir piece. And in the back compartment, you can see in the earliest 62 years, there were no Auf and Zu with letters and arrows to open up the rear trapdoor. The material was a different style than the cover that went over it. And you can see, look closely, you can see the white paint of that trapdoor inside the little handles here for the rear tray. The earliest years also did not have any covers, any grills for the rear air duct area here. And so when that happened, they instituted a decal down here in the gutter area that informed people not to put anything in that area to avoid it getting sucked into the engine. You can see the engine is a beautiful unrestored engine. It's the early 2-bolt style here for the top, and then it's got the single coil and the early air cleaner. This one, you can see the early style did not have the oil breather hose going to the air cleaner, so it has a little plastic screw cap that covers that opening. Very nice engine. Another view of it. Close-up of the generator and the wiring, all of the clips that hold everything down, and the early 2-piece fuel pump cap here that was used through 65. The single carburetor 32 PHN was used up into through 63. And the early style oil cooler piece here is attached to this oil cooler, and it has a spring to keep the accelerator cable taut. The rear engine lid trapdoor was covered completely. You can see it wrapping around the edges of this piece here in the early years in 62 and 63. Later on, the insulation material was tucked inside this edge here and not wrapped over the edge of the trapdoor. So this 62 is absolutely phenomenal, well preserved, 30,000 miles, and unwelded, unrestored. So it's absolutely the best choice for our 62 model year, and I hope you enjoyed it.